Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Krishna Mukherjee from ETH. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this live webinar, 5 Customer Experience Trends You Can't Dismiss in 2020. This webinar is brought to you by ETH, powered by Zendesk. Someone has very rightly said, the customer experience is the next competitive battleground. Today, customers' demands are changing. They want to engage with businesses like they do with family and friends. Channels like chat, social messaging, communities, and self service continue to grow rapidly. Businesses that interact with customers across these channels are twice as likely to provide better experiences since customers expect fast, personalized support. Personalization, speed, and working on customer input help nurture customer loyalty. And that is the reason why customer input, building on customer data, and uses of AI for better customer experience are critical. Ladies and gentlemen, our today's conversation would revolve around some of the hottest customer experience trends and how to create a high performance customer service team which take care of each aspect of a customer. We have an interesting panel discussion for today, but before that, let me hand it over to KP Prasad, Country Director, Zendesk India, for sharing his views around customer experience trends. Before I hand it over to him, request you all to be please present till the end of the webinar and get your questions ready for the Q&A session. Welcome, Katie. Thank you for joining it.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to the audience. In the event of this COVID-19 situation, I'm working from home like most of you. And I take this extreme opportunity to engage with you. We'll have an opportunity to spend a little bit of time about some of the CX trends. And we'll give you some emanation at the back, at the end of it, on what possibility that you can see the trends emerging in 2020 and beyond. The agenda for today, I'll touch upon a little bit about customer loyalty and how is it changing rapidly in the year and last year and the year coming. We do year on year what we call a benchmark report called Zendesk benchmark report, covering across breadth and depth of country and world and also industries. We want to make sure that we get that across to you so that you could actually make use of those trends to see what the customer expectations are today and how you need to embrace those trends and changes to be relevant and drive great customer experience. And at the end, I will give you some top trends again for you to take down and go back to your business and start looking at how relevant are those for you. That's me. Thank you very much for introduction, Krishna. Today, if customers are comparing you to the best customer experience that they've ever had, look at some of the brands that we deal day in, day out. It could be a cab ride that we take from Uber or Ola. It could be a holiday vacation that you book on a favorite hotel or using Airbnb, or a favorite movie that we want to watch, or a series that we want to watch on Netflix, or any of the retail brands that we look at. Today's customers are getting pampered with the kind of experiences that they have with some of those brands that I mentioned on the screen. But look at the experience that they get as a consumer. Now, when this consumer comes back and maybe deals with a 100-year-old financial services company, they expect the same experience. Or it could be a manufacturing company that they deal, could be automobile company that they deal with. Because they had some great experience, we call that a shiny experience. They want same experience with everywhere else, and that's the expectations. So today, what we believe is that customers do not differentiate the industry that they look at when they expect experience. They want that same great experience irrespective of your industry or your space of operating of business. I think that is super emerging trend. So your customers are comparing you to other brands, maybe from other industries, is a key thing that you should know. We talked about loyalty and what we have done for a conversation today. This is the number of number of customers that we surveyed across the globe. And as you see, the dot that you see, it's called developed countries. And the lightest dot is all countries, and the one in the center, which is emerging. So emerging countries like India, some of the Southeast Asia countries or South American countries are emerging. and developed countries are like Japan and Australia and US. And we asked one question to all the customers actually, what attributes make you feel loyal to the brand? No surprise, the price is number one aspect of it. But second, and the most important, because the number of surveyed customers answered this, is the customer service that they get from the brand. The most important for them to stay loyal to you. And what happens if we as businesses cannot deliver that great experience? When you can't deliver that great experience to the customers, not only drives the disloyalty, but also drives switching customers. Like one third of the customers will switch your brand to your competition with one bad experience. About 80% of customers would switch after multiple bad experiences. Maybe I might belong to the 80%, but some of you, if you're a millennial, the patience levels are so little, you would want to switch, with one bad experience. And we also asked, what are the most frustrating aspects of bad experience and how do they describe it? And this is customers voting it. They said when businesses put them on a long wait or a hold times while interacting with the agent will actually create a bad experience for them. Second most one, the automated systems that make it hard to reach a human agent. That means you put in a bot or automation, they want to talk to a human, but the processes or the tools are not letting them to talk to human. That frustration actually lead to a bad experience. And remember, when they had a bad experience, one third of it will switch straight away, and the 80% will do it in the second or third instance. So it's very important if you want to drive loyalty, you got to make sure that you care for your customers, but also some of the questions that most answered by customers are something that you should not do. If this is the way that you reflect back onto your business, do we have long waits? Do you have automated systems that does not let the customer get out and talk to a human agent? Or even if the customers need to, repeat the information multiple times while they're talking to one day to the next day or where one channel to another channel, these are the most common frustrating aspects of customers today that you got to be worried about. Now, I told you, I showed you some of the data and I said, okay, let's talk through some of the data. And what is this data? Now, we surveyed across the globe. About 10% of this number that you see on the screen actually are from India. So about 1,000 agents, real people that we spoke to, customer experience managers, about 300, and end customers, about 3,000 that we've surveyed across the globe. But at the same time, to create a benchmark, you need to have a sizable data. Now at Zendesk, we have over 150,000 customers globally, 150,000 customers globally and beyond. We've asked these customers, how many of you can, let us utilize your data anonymously so that we can create a benchmark. That means we don't use your sensitive information, names, phone numbers, any of those, but we actually lead what is your first response times and resolution time, CSATs, and some of the attributes of it anonymously so that we can create a benchmark. Guess what? 45,000 companies across the globe who worked with us said, yeah, please use our data, including India. So we had an opportunity to benchmark across industries, across the globe, and we want to bring those trend reports. Before I bring in a trend, we have asked one question to this, all the customers. How satisfied are you with the customers in APAC or in India? And this data kind of matches very close to India numbers. And about 88% said they're very happy. This actually is great. And we said, fantastic, let's go a little deeper into, by industry, whether it's a B2C or a B2B and a B2E. Now, if you look at most commonly, we ask this question, when it comes to customer experience, which industry does it provide the best? We usually heard it's a B2C or direct consumer, business to consumer industry is the ones which are provided. But if you look at the data, it actually talks differently. It actually says the customers in a B2C are least happy when they compare with either a B2B or a business to employee scenario where you're internally engaging the employees to provide a great experience. And one of the reasons we figured out why B2C customers are slightly unhappy or the CSAT is lower, it is because some of us, we have to deal with the sheer volume of interactions and calls and tickets that we have to deal with it. And because the volume is so high, and some of the times that we have to go back to the customers is slightly longer, so hence it drives a lower CSAT. But over net, the customers across in APAC are very happy, but B2B, B2E industry in APAC are a lot more happier than a B2C. Now, as I talked about, what are the trends and engagement that we see coming for you in 2020 and beyond? Now, let me give those trends to you. First and most important trend, if you care for a customer, you care for a conversation. That means your customers today wanted to have one conversation, and that conversation could be happening with multiple interactions that the customer might need to do with you. Maybe they would have visited your offline store, or maybe visited your website, sent an email, then maybe the issue did not get resolved. They came to a chat or a bot interaction, or even probably even a social engagement that they've done. But they want all this interaction that I have with you as a brand tied back to one single thread of channels, so that they feel that it's a one conversation. But most importantly, it is what we call a conversation business. That means your customers today expect you to have a conversation. That means you got to drive conversation business. Very importantly, you got to also think about where we can put automation and UI, using AI to really power those conversations to make your life and the customer's life better. Uh, Second trend, which is very important, your customers expect all of us to tie their industries together. That means, let's say it's an internal departments. It could be sales, marketing, finance, legal. Doesn't matter departments. They want they are dealing with a brand, and when they engage with you, it should feel that they're engaging a brand. They should not hear that let me get back to you talking after talking to legal. My back end team has not get back has not come back to you. That means your customers are expecting, or our customers are expecting us to collaborate internally, which means that it calls for us to create a CRM system where it connects our line of business applications to really have an engaged conversation, so that the customer, when they connect with you or engage with you, the agents are empowered to provide the data. But the third one, which is one of my favorite one, which is a new trend that we're seeing emerging, the customers wanted to deal with those brands who are strategic, who think their CX is a strategic. Now, if you are a brand and if you want to differentiate yourself with customers on how you deal with CX, you got to reflect upon, do you have a C-level representation for customer experience, and is it a strategic priority for you? And I'll talk about some of these in little detail as we go through. Now, first one, it's all in one conversation. We said it all. But this is the important insight that we can share with you. Half of our customers say that they want to contact companies over the same channels that they use to talk to family and friends. That means if I'm using WhatsApp to talk to my family and friends, they want you as a business and me as a business to provide WhatsApp as a channel to engage with them. And it's a blessing in disguise. And this is the most friendliest channel which customers use to talk to families and friends. That means the tonality of customers are super friendly and personal, means very engaging customers. That's exactly what we need. A better CX can only be provided when you engage your customers better, for which you got to tie all the conversations, but more importantly, provide those channels that are most relevant for customers, like social messaging, like WhatsApp. Now, we asked one more thing. A channels companies across are planning to add in the days to come or years to come. Now, I want you to draw your attention to the mid section and the bottom section here. But if you look at the phone and email are continues to be adding, and they're adding at in a slower pace. But the biggest one you're seeing that with the self-service, AI technologies, social messaging, they're all growing at over 50%. These are the channels which most businesses are trying to add across the globe. It is because our customers are saying those are the favorite channels for them to engage with us as a business. So it's important for it to start thinking about how we want to really create a great experience, and think about these channels if you're not have these channels yet for customers to engage with you. Now, second trend, I think we are dealing with tons of data. Thanks to Reliance Jio, a few years ago, the data in India become so cheap. In fact, we only pay for data nowadays. I don't know how many of you in the call today have ever used entire data allocated by your mobile provider to you every month. I don't. I may probably maybe use 10-15% of it. That means what it tells you, we have a data in abundance. That means the customers today are leaving a lot of digital footprint, which means we as companies are managing almost the 3x of data which we had to do it compared to 5 years ago. And that means more data, which is digital trial, but are you really making and harnessing the data to really find out a trend and what customer really likes it and what they're trying to do and what they like and don't like? These are very important for you to really understand customer digitally when they left a footprint for you to harness the data and actually make sense of data. Super important. Now, second question that we've asked as part of the trend, we've asked cross teams, that sales leaders who expect revenue growth, and if you are a sales function, they're all measured by what is the revenue that they bring to the company and how likely they would like to collaborate. Would they like to collaborate, first of all? And guess what? About 75% of the companies said and the sales leader said they would want to collaborate with their service teams and stuff like that. And the reasons are very simple. If you're a salesperson, you care for revenue. We all know that customer loyalty can drive a great amount of revenue. And if a customer going from loyalty to evangelism, that means they're talking to the friends and family, which means a great engagement that we have done with our brand with customers. That means they will bring in a better revenue, which means the sales teams want to partner with you. Similarly, talk to a marketing team and a legal team and a finance team. Looks like more and more teams want to collaborate because that is the key thing. The customer experience is the key, irrespective of the functions, because most of us and all of us who are sitting today is one thing that binds us all together because we all care for the customer out there. And I'm sure our departments across all care for it, but are we collaborating? If not, please collaborate because that's what our customer expects us to do. Now, the last trend which they talked about is customer experience in the heads to the C-suite. It's very interesting. If you wanted to differentiate yourself to the competition, and if you want to say that you are a care for a customer, the only way the customers will look up to you, do you have a chief customer officer identified, or and is CCO identified and publicly announced in your website or maybe your leadership team? This is the reflection that your customers are looking at you to see how serious you are. The CCO, or a chief customer officer, is the only person who cares for the customer role as a title. They live and breathe with the customer life cycle. And this is how the customers reflect upon, our end customers are reflect upon whether business are serious about CX and are just saying or they're actually doing it. And if you want to differentiate, and if you have a CCO, make sure that you publicly announce the CCO. And if you don't have it, please think about having it. Guess what? Companies started 5 years ago have a 63% likely to have a CCO. That means the last companies born, digitally born companies, they're all having CCO. Super important. If you don't have, get one. This is how the customers reflect upon with you, whether we are serious for customers or no. Now, this is an important trend. We all know that agents who are actually providing the front end support to customers, when they stay longer with you, they provide a great customer support, no rocket science. But these are the people where the average tenure of agent is less than a year or even 14 months or lower. That means you help agents to be productive, you train them, you make them stronger and experienced, and these agents will leave you. That means your CSAT will keep dropping. So the only way the agents will stay with you for longer, because remember, when they stay longer, they give you better CSAT, is by engaging agents. Engaged employees means better customer experience. You got to make sure that the agents feel that they're part of the organization. They should feel that they can make a career with your organization. And these are very important aspects for agents to stay longer and giving you great customer satisfaction and driving a better CSAT. Now, as a summary, there are 5 CX trends for 2020 that's emerging, and this is the simplest way. If you care for a C, that is customer, you got to care for 5 C's. And number 1, your customers want to have a conversation with you. Second, your customers want to collaborate across your teams so that they can have a great experience, so that they don't need to deal with multiple departments. Number 3C, the customers want you to connect all their customer data, which they leave digitally, and also leave with your ERPs and CRM systems and different logistics systems. That means integrate all of them so that they feel that it's a connected system that they're actually dealing with and people that they're dealing with. Your customers expect you to continue to invest in AI so that they have a great experience, and availability of their experiences all throughout. Sorry. Interesting. And the last one, whether you have a C-suite representation at CCO level, that means do you have a chief customer service officer identified and driving their experience, very important C. And if you think about these trends are important and driving a great experience for you, you can download a very personalized report at the link that I provided to you here at zendesk.com customer experience trends. And this report will be very personalized based on benchmarking data that we have created at the beginning of the year for you. With that, I want to say thank you for a great opportunity. Zendesk can be followed socially across LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and if you want to follow me, hit me up on LinkedIn. That is Katie Prasad is my user ID. With that, I want to hand over back to
Thanks,
for some
Katie.
quick poll
Yeah.
questions.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, if we can just flash the poll questions, Dharma. The first poll question is here, Katie. Would you like to comment on the same? Is social messaging as a support channel relevant for your company?
Oh, there you go. As I've seen the trend, close to 87% of the people said that it is extremely important and in the near time and less than 6 months, and not relevant enough for 6%. Maybe those are the set of people need to go back and evaluate if a customers want you to engage in these channels, and why do you think that's irrelevant or maybe not so relevant now. But good to see close to 90% of the people think that this is very, very important. Can we go to the next poll question, please? Poll question is, does your organization currently use WhatsApp as a support channel? Very interesting. That means close to about 68%, it was close to 70% says that they either have or will have in less than 6 months. Again, very interesting results and very heartening to see about 36 or 40% of businesses have already embraced WhatsApp. I think they're figuring out the best way to engage your customers in WhatsApp, because one of my trend talks about a personal messaging channel like WhatsApp is the most preferred channel. 40% have already done it. I think the rest of it will embrace this very shortly. Very good to see those results. Can we go to third poll question, please? Which of the three trends do you find most relevant for you and your industry? I presented three top trends today. Wow, it's that means every trend is important because it's equally shifting across. But collaboration, I think I see that most people have said collaboration. It is super important to drive a great experience. It brings an efficiency to your organization. It reduces your resolution time to customers and driving better experience. So it's not one trend or other. And I'm so glad that personally I believe that all three trends are super important. So good to see even the participant feels the same. Thank you, participants. Over to you, Krishna.
Katie. Yeah, thanks, Katie, for those insights. We got your points right. Conversation, collaborate, connected. This is what the key message is coming from your presentation. Okay, so an interesting panel is awaiting us. We have with us today with Orange Business Services, Shivangi Kamath, Head Quality Assurance and Service Head Result Group Marketing Officer, Nearby Technologies, Mohit Malik, Chief Technology Officer, Virus, and of course, Katie Consultant, the Director of India. With that, let me hand it over to the moderator, market evangelist, and author, Mr. Rajesh Srinivasan. Over to you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining in. Over to you, Mr. Srinivasan.
Thank you, participants, for joining in. Today, company executives have started realizing the importance of customer experience and its positive impact the brand equity and bottom line of a company. Steve Jobs famously said, "You've got to start with customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You cannot start with the technology and try to figure out where you are going to use it." It means understanding our customers' buying journey, what they need, what their needs and preferences are, right from the beginning of the purchase, even at post-purchase, is very, very critical for us to understand how we can implement our strategy and increase it. Now, companies have started allocating resources in building the right infrastructure to deliver great customer experience. No doubt about that. We have statistical evidence to prove that a great customer experience makes a person 5 times more likely to recommend a company and more likely to purchase in the future. So today we have a great mix of panelists who are both from consumer-facing businesses and business to business, and even business to consumer-facing businesses. So my first question to them is, what is the, amongst all the customer experience trends which we have observed, what is the key trend, or what is the top priority for you, or you think organizations has to leverage, and how they can do it? My first question goes to, this question goes to Vimal Vyas, then one by one everyone can answer. Hi Vimal, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can start with this. So, hi all, I am Mohit. I take care of technology at Chayos. We are a 7-year-old chai cafe chain in India. And just to start on the customer side of the story, we are a very consumer centric company, and our product is a product which is of a high repeat nature. Just to give you a volume idea, 80% of Indians drink chai, and that takes us to 100 crore people. Average 2 cups of chai on a daily basis. That takes us to 200 crore instances of chai drinking on a daily basis. Now, if you have to be part of this whole ecosystem, you have to make sure that your product is consistent. Your product serves the right customer, and you create a product that is more relevant to your customer, as opposed to creating a product that is relevant to the business and then giving it to the customer. So with all this thing in mind, we started with the concept of Meri Wali Chai, which is customizing your own chai in 80,000 different ways. And these are almost all the permutations and combinations of tea drinking that happens in this nation. And our platform, our cafes today are capable of brewing those 80,000 different varieties of chai that my customer needs in a very consistent manner. And the only way that is possible for us to achieve this is through technology. So to give you an idea, every customer has unique demands of the product, and everybody has their own way of making chai. Now, if you have to bundle this out into a product, you cannot service everyone. But we came up with a very unique proposition, and we said that you define your cup of chai and we'll serve it for you. And that's where the whole concept of building an automated tea brewing machine came in, which we started building out once we understood that, now the customer is sold to the idea that he can customize this chai in 80,000 different ways, and they are sold on to the idea that they can get the same kind of chai everywhere, wherever they go into the Chayos cafes. As a company, our intent was to service them with consistency. You need to get the same cup of chai everywhere, and you should not have a different experience with the same cup of chai. And hence we started building out the technology. And as we stand, it took us like 1.5 years to build this technology, have multiple patents for it, and all our cafes today serve a freshly brewed cup of chai, which can be customized to the customer's need, and it is served with 100% consistency across all our cafes. So that's what technology does to the business, and if you have to scale, if you understand the gravity of the problem is training. You cannot train those 2,000 folks on ground to make the same cup of chai every time, and that to have 80,000 different variations. So operations was not the solution, technology was, and we built it out. And guess what? Our NPS numbers 4 years down the line were hovering in the range of 28, 30. We are now sitting at a solid 72 NPS. And
right, okay. You mean personalization, especially in a consumer-facing business, is very critical. Instead of treating everybody the same, personalized experience deliver a great customer experience, correct?
Right.
Okay. Shivangi, can you share your experience on this?
So, hello everyone. I work for insurance, and in insurance, it is important that we understand the customer life cycle before we either launch any kind of product or initiate any kind of service. And thus, it becomes very important for us to be closely connected with the data
which can cater to millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, and plan your services or product accordingly. Thus, being into insurance, it is important that I would sell maybe a motor insurance at the right time or the right age to the consumer, rather than selling it to a student who may need an education loan. That's why it is very important aspect where we initially define the life cycle or the value chain before we launch any kind of product, or we keep revisiting our services basis our customers' views, and accordingly we keep changing. So there is no uniform way of operations where today I could say that we have a very uniform way of having our services or products.
Great. That's a brilliant point, Shivangi. You offer your service based on the life cycle and requirements of the customers. So it means you don't push your insurance, both your personal insurance or your general insurance products, randomly to all the customers. That is a great point, especially when you're in a service business, in the financial services business. Great point, Shivangi. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks.
Jayatri, please do share your experience.
Hi everyone, I'm Jayatri and I head marketing at Pay Nearby. So we are a B2B2C company. We reach out to consumers through over 10 lakh retailers that spread across 17,000 pin codes in the country. So the geographical distribution and the sheer amount of customers and retailers that we are serving every single day is a huge quantum. And all these customers and retailers that we speak to, they all have different needs. They have different preferred modes of communication. So as a brand custodian, the one thing that is most important for me to maintain a customer experience that is great for the organization is to have an omni-channel communication strategy where there's a unified communication across all channels. So when my sales guy speaks to a retailer or a customer, or my customer service agent speaks to a retailer or a customer, or from a marketing we do any communication, it shouldn't be like that different people are talking different languages and communicating conflicting ideas or messaging. So unified communication which is said in the same tonality, same language, is one of the most critical aspects of communication. Especially for a company like us, which caters to a big, geographically distributed base. The next thing that's important is because we are talking to such a large audience and there are so many people talking, there is one unified view of all customer interactions that everyone can reach out to and immediately have at their finger point when they're talking to a customer. So we know the history, we know the last interaction, and the customer doesn't need to repeat every single time what his issues are to 20 different people within the organization that he's or she is speaking to. So for me, the two most important things that I would like to highlight is one, a unified communication strategy across all the channels that we are using. Two is a single view of the customer so that whoever is speaking to the customer knows the history and can therefore tailor the communication based on the requirement of the situation.
Great points, Jayatri. Unified customer view, and most importantly, having a single view of the customer. That is another critical thing, right? So if I were to contact a business multiple times and I need to coordinate with multiple departments, it's really frustrating. And this single view based on analyzing the customer data can throw up more personalized, and we can treat the customer in a more personalized way. That's a good point, Jayatri. Okay, so now coming back to Prasad, amongst all the 5 trends which you have shared, what could be the high priority in Indian context? Can you share that, Prasad?
Thank you, Rajesh, for the question. I think the conversation one is so important because it is evident, like you just explained, and also you see the image that we have on the right corner on the webinar one, where you have put customer in the center, you put in all the channels, right? You have an email to messaging to chat, phone, social, all of the channels centering on what it really tells you that, customer is the epicenter of everything that we do. Now, this customer will have multiple interactions with you over different channels. Are you really tying that up? Now, let's take a context of India. Now, India, we see a younger generation. The average age of India in 2020 by 22, which is current year, is at 29 years. We are a very populated country across the globe. And that gives us the opportunity to engage in some of the instant gratification channels. Either it could be social channels like a WhatsApp or a Twitter DM, or a online chat like which gives you live chat, which gives you instant gratification, or AI powered bot. It doesn't matter, but for a customer, they are having interaction with multiple people over multiple channels. And when they contact you, irrespective of what channel that they choose during the conversation, they expect businesses to know what was the previous conversation the same customer had with you on the same issue, irrespective of all of that. That means they don't want to repeat the information that can only happen when we have a conversation. I think that is very prevalent in India, because we love as a country, we love talking to each other over a chai. Maybe like Mohit talked about, so many chais being sold in country. That means there are so many conversations been happening, and similarly, people do come back and want to talk and engage. So conversation is one of my favorite trends that I've seen and emerging. And this conversation, if it's happening on WhatsApp, I'm personally super delighted to talk about how WhatsApp can really make our customer service experience and experience can drive a great deal of customer evangelism at the end of the day.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Prasad. So now, as a customer, I prefer to talk to a customer service agent directly sometimes when there is a pressing need or problem which I wanted to solve. But conventional IVRs and routing process, which is prevalent in most of the financial services and telecom companies, doesn't solve this purpose, right? So how companies can overcome this challenge? Can Shivangi answer this question?
So, well, I think that every customer, basically, being into finance industry, I feel the products are so complex that it is never, a smooth journey where all the transactions are just online. So I see that there is a mix of online and offline transactions where the customer would, himself want to first read about the product himself and then still prefer, that personalized touch with an agent to explain him certain features, or in a way would want, if the person or the customer is a millennial, would want to go for a web chat. So it is never just a smoother online kind of an experience, but from financial sector point, I feel it is always a blend of offline and an online kind of an integration that normally happens.
What I'm trying to understand is, instead of treating every customer in a very similar fashion, how do you identify a person who, or how do you open up a channel where most of the e-commerce platforms or company websites don't directly, they directly display their phone numbers, but when we try to reach them out, instead of after avoiding, I wanted to communicate to you directly, I have a pressing problem. But when I dial those numbers, it again has so many IVRs and so many internal systems, so which takes more time for me to reach out to your customer service person directly. I wanted to talk to you now, but when we study the trend also, if you notice, most of the baby boomers or
Yeah.
people above the age of 50, they're not very convenient about the technology. They directly take their phone and see the website numbers and try to reach out to branch directly. So how can you solve this problem, especially for baby boomers who want to reach the brand directly now at this point of time?
So Rajesh, you correctly said we do face those concerns, or we faced those concerns prior to around 3 to 4 years back with Tata, where we would be in a fix where we had the similar kind of service, or the similar kind of resolution being given across all these all across mass. And then we realized that, like you rightly said, the level of patience that a millennial or a baby boomer may have is different from someone who's who's used the product or who's loyal with us for a good 5 years. So, like I said, then we started moving to a phase where we started defining life cycle. Then defining the kind of communications or the kind of requirements that would come from each of these, and we made our own repository, what we call it as an FAQ, or the kind of queries or issues that we had, and we started designing our services, or the way we should be catering to these customers, and opening up certain channels which they can leverage. For example, if a millennial has to buy a car today or an auto insurance, there is already a set of questions which are proactively attached to the document or sent online, which itself answers 80% of your queries when you would have taken the product in the first 3 years. So that's how, like, this is just an example of auto. For example, if you take a health insurance policy, apart from just giving the helpline numbers, we give you a dedicated TPA resource person and say that we have already shared the details with the TPA. And anytime that you call the TPA, in case you can't reach to our customer service agent, you will be immediately assisted to, approach the hospital or get medical assistance. And honestly, we have seen that, when we took care of the unstated needs of the customer, something which the customer has not stated when, if the customer has bought the policy, we saw that they were very happy, or the kind of queries or concerns that came to us in the first 3 years were reduced as compared to what we had in the history.
Great.
So,
Okay.
Uh,
Thanks.
Rajesh, hi, Vimal here. My apologies. I think some technical glitch. I'm online.
Yeah, thanks, Vimal, for joining with us back. So, a question to you, Mohit. How critical is the link between employee experience and customer experience? Because at the front end, we can devise a strategy from a management level, but at the end of the day, frontline employees and people who are at the CRM and sales level, they are going to face the customers day in and day out. So how do you handle at a volume which you have at Chios? How do you handle this? The link between customer experience and employee experience.
So we have a motto in our company, which is happy staff, happy customers. And being in a service industry, in a hospitality industry where the customer is right in front of you and expecting a good service out of it, a staff member who is not in a state to give that experience would just hamper the overall experience of the customer. And what we try to do is, again, we have done some technology interventions here, and what we have tried to do is we have tried to make the life of our employees very simple and yet deliver the same experience to the customer. To give you an example, in a peak hour at our cafes, there are tens of customers that are lined up and are expecting the order to be served immediately, as well as the order to be taken immediately. Now, if I have only 2 staff who are taking orders, there would be long queues, and there would be customer dissatisfaction. Now, what we have done is, for that particular purpose, we have deployed self-ordering kiosks. We have created a dine-in app in which customers can basically sit on the table and order by themselves without even interacting to the boy. And now, since the workload is reduced, we have now asked our cafe staff to go back and talk to the customer on the table about their experience, rather than making it more of a transactional, because transaction is something that everybody is today conveniently able to order from these devices. Rather than spending time on taking the order, why not spend time with the customer and understand their needs? So what we have done is we have deployed these technologies. We have tried to migrate our customers to those platforms, and then we have freed up the bandwidth of our staff, and hence now the staff can go back and talk to the customer. And similarly, tea brewing machine is again a great example where we have automated the processes to an extent where now being in a hospitality business, your focus should be customer first and not running your day-to-day course in a monotonous manner. So all the work that can be automated and replicated is taken care by the technology, and the boys' responsibility is just to ensure that the customer has a great experience. So again, technology intervention is what has helped us. This is what we have been doing. We have continued to add more and more, products to our portfolio just to make the lives of our staff better so that they can service the customer.
Thanks, Mohit. Means technology and building right systems can help the employees to deliver your brand experience, right?
Right.
So thanks for adding value. Now, Vimal, just tell me, even though you have technology in place, how do you inculcate the service culture inside an organization? That is more critical, right? Sometimes we may have a technology, but how do you do you suggest a process to hire right people, or how do you approach this? How do you build a right culture inside an organization?
Thanks, Rajesh. So yeah, I think from the Orange perspective, that's something which is a part of a culture as well. But talking on a broader perspective, what we are essentially focusing is to ensure that our employees are not only customer centric, but they stay relevant. And when I'm saying relevant, not only to organization but also to our customers, which means when we are talking from a specific customer or account point of view, how well they understand our customers or the accounts, which means make them feel a part of the customer organization. So there are a lot of this, events by which we are actually inviting our customers. They are talking to the set of employees who are involved in handling that account as well, so they feel very close associated with the customer, and I think that's important. Now that's more on the customer side. What we are also doing, the second aspect, which is on the customer side, and I think you touched upon that, is B2B and B2C then, is that just to give you an example, one of the largest pharmaceutical company, which is our global customer, what we started doing is taking feedback from their end customer. And interesting trend is that now customer is saying that inbuild that as a part of your contract, which means we are not being evaluated only on the SLA that we are delivering to our customer in B2B space, but also to B2B2C, which means we have a target of their customer satisfaction, which is their end customer. And I think that's the trend by which we are actually bringing customer centricity right in the focus of the way we drive our engagement and process transformation in OBS.
Thanks, Vimal. Now, Prasad, every customer segment prefers to interact with the company using different channels, right? So, for example, according to your report, baby boomers prefer to interact over phone, whereas millennials prefer to interact over chat. I've raised this question to another panelist. But how do you customize this experience using technology?
It's a great question, and maybe the trend what we seeing and what is in real life. I think the lines between age group segmenting that we used to do, the typical segmentation of customers, I think it's blending away and the lines are getting faded. Because today, even though some of us in the panelists and I don't belong to baby boomer, I don't belong to millennial, but I do behave like millennial at times. I'll give you an example. So I have an issue with, let's say, for conversation's sake, I have a problem with my telecom provider. I try to call them, maybe, say about my issue, and they say, we'll get back to you. During my busy days, I'll write an email about the same issue as a follow-up. Try to even chat with them. Maybe sometimes works, doesn't work. If not, I'll go to Twitter. So you look at, I use multiple channels to talk. And as per the segmentation report, if you look at, a segmentation report says people who are above 40 and below baby boomers, like maybe 40 to 55, will probably like doing emails and phone calls. But I've used chat, I've used WhatsApp, and I've used Twitter. So I think the lines are blending. It is super important that one channel doesn't solve the problem, multi-channel doesn't solve the problem, omni-channel only way to solve the problem, and more importantly, it is not one channel versus other. It's about convenience to customer. Uh, we can't really segment customers by age, because we see that some of the customers in the segment are actually behaving different. I'll give you one more example and then I'll hand it over back to you. Like my dad, who was about 75 years old, he would use Uber and Ola and some of the apps like you and me. And in calculation, he would be the one person who would actually not mobile savvy, probably will actually always look for a phone call. But not just my dad. I'm sure go back and ask the participants today, and how many of our parents and child, or maybe different colleagues are using different technology, not by just segmentation, but just sheer convenience, because it's convenient for them. That's my view, Rajesh.
Great. You mean to say it shouldn't be age centric, because people use channels based on the category, based on the context. They don't approach everything in a very similar fashion. So that is why you're suggesting not to design a customer experience or a technology based on just an age. That is what you're trying to say, right, Prasad?
That is absolutely correct.
Great. Thank you.
Rajesh, I have a point here to add. You asked a question
Please
before.
introduce yourself. Mohit, right?
Mohit, right? Yeah. Mohit,
Yeah.
yeah. So you asked Shivani a while back around how technology can help us give a specific personalized experience to the customer when it comes to interacting with the on the issues at hand and all. We were working on a product which is more of an AI ML driven product, wherein rather than being reactive to the situation, be proactive to the situation. That's the whole idea. And because there are so many data that you collect from the customer, be it the social media listening that you do, or the transactional data that you collect, or even any content that the customer is generating. If you have a way of identifying what is the trigger point of the customer to reach out to you, then you can recant your experiences and proactively reach out to the customer as being reactive. To give you an example, we are right now working on a product wherein as soon as we take the order from the customer, we start tracking down the TATs and all. And if we hit a certain TAT, which is beyond the threshold, we basically generate an alert into the system which says that, let's say, if my customer is dissatisfied because of the TAT, and there is a second point, which is I have a CCTV camera which is monitoring the table and doing video analysis on top of it to see if the customer has left the food or not. These two things can be combined to just trigger a message to my area manager and call the customer to ask if the customer is dissatisfied or not. So see, being proactive would help you, and this would just have a different experience for the customer altogether, that we know what the problem was, and if he would like us to help him in whatever manner they want. So creating understanding what the customer needs are, understanding the trigger points, and then acting on them is how technology can help you in giving a good customer experience. And then there could be multiple channels which are preferred by the customer. You can reach out to them through various channels.
Yeah. Thanks, Mohit.
Rajesh, Shivangi here. I also have a point here to add. So while we talk about, what is the kind of measure or the medium that we need to choose in order to cater to these, masses, it's important that we also consider the geographical limitations. The kind of people, or the kind of reach that today these technologies can have. Secondly, when we open these kind of options to our consumers, we also need to bifurcate as to what kind of service would any customer from any mass or any generation would want to wait for. For example, someone who wants to know a renewal date or just the amount for his premium would not want to talk to an agent, but would just want the amount, on a fingertip. So somewhere I feel that it is not about the generation needs, but it's about the need from a customer or an organization point, or a service that you want to bifurcate and then implement or have your automation in place to ensure that you reach all these generations. That's my point.
Great. So on the other hand, if you have technology to personalize the customer experience, but at the policy level, how do you handle it? For example, if the requirements of every customer's segments are totally different, right? So at one level, we are talking about things which are very tactical in delivering a great customer service experience. But how about the policy level? It means if a customer has specific issue, how whenever the frontliners used to have a scripted answer for most of the things, right? So how do you ensure that you treat every customer's problems as unique?
So Rajesh, this is a good question. In fact, what we do is every customer will have its, will have an stated and unstated, or in other words, an explicit or an implicit needs that are very well defined in any sector. So what needs to be done ideally is, you have your automation or technical support or any kind of, tools being used to ensure that the stated needs of the customers, which are their day-to-day needs or maybe needs which may come, known needs. We normally use technology there, and something like a claim, apart from just the registration or the payout, we would want to be in touch with our customers where we ensure that the unstated needs is a focus for us. So
Right.
we differentiate basis the journey that a customer or a consumer normally travels right from the time the customer intends or thinks of buying a policy or product from us to we settle the claim or ensure that we hand him over with his maturity check or a surrender value.
Yeah. Thanks, Shivangi. What is your view on this, Jayatri?
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do echo a lot of things that the other panelists have said so far. What I feel is what is very important is we are very contextual when we talk to our customers. So, for example, in our modes of communication, if a retailer or a customer has to raise a feedback or an issue with us, are we providing him the right tools and solutions when he's using the platform, and are we ensuring that if he's using an online system, the tags are maintained, he's getting the right answers to his queries within the stipulated time. So understanding and tailoring our experiences based on context is, I think, a very, very important parameter. And we need to know what can be automated and where manual intervention is required. For example, in the case of our organization, we know that during the onboarding process, manual intervention is a must. So during that time, we have more than 200 odd videos that we have uploaded on our channel. It is the responsibility of the customer service team and the people who are on foot, the sales guys, to educate the customer and tell him the tools that he can use when there is a problem. So training and onboarding needs a lot of manual intervention, and we are focused on giving that manual help at that point. But things frequently asked questions, things that can be automated, we should use technology to automate the same so that the burden then on the customer service team and the people who are fronting it with the customer reduces, and they can really engage and focus their time on solving issues where that manual intervention is required.
Yeah. Thanks, Jayatri. Now, this question goes to Vimal and Prasad, both of you. Let me start with Vimal. Vimal, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Vimal, traditionally, every marketing department spends most of their time and money on advertising, promotions, and all those things, especially on customer acquisition. Now, are they changing their views, and have they started their focus really on customer experience, especially what happens post acquisition? Is the trend moving towards that direction? What do you think?
Yes.
Sorry, I'll just interrupt. This is Jayatri. I have to leave. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Jayatri. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. Yeah, Vimal,
So,
please go ahead.
yes. So, Rajesh, I think very relevant question, and I think I would not probably limit this answer from the marketing department per se only. Traditionally, if you talk about customer experience, I think most of us used to believe that it's predominantly run side of business, where we are focusing only on the post sales side, which means customer service is only your call center and so on and so forth. I think now the dynamics are changing, and why I say so is that right, even before your customer or prospect becomes your customer experience starts, which means the marketing engagement is far more, in the initial stage, even where customer is browsing the options of the product or services that he may, have an inclination to buy. So I think both social era as well as the end-to-end engagement of customer experience right from the pre-sale side has certainly put marketing in the spot where they cannot predominantly focus on only the run side of the business, but the engagement at various channels, at various life cycle of the customer service starts right from pre-sales. And therefore, marketing has to be present across all the channels in this cycle, as well as ensure that how they are, becoming relevant to customers across various segments and are present as and when customer is, looking out for you. So I think that's the larger sense, and that's applicable to all B2B, B2C business. And I think that's the essence that I could totally feel as far as the engagement is concerned.
Thanks, Vimal. Prasad, now
Uh,
a question to
and
you.
I just, sorry, Rajesh, just one more point I want to add here is that what is important here, and the element is that while it is important to be relevant, but I think it's also, and I mean, you have to ensure that you are not becoming too, relevant as well, which means there are those, other side of securities and personalization. You have to play very, very smartly, not to intervene too much into customer side as well. So I think that's the trade-off that marketers have to be a little careful about as well. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Over to you, Prasad.
privacy shouldn't crop up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raju, if you're
Prasad,
saying, yeah, please.
yeah, Prasad, now um, being into tech development company, building marketing analytics tool for companies, what is the trend you see in terms of companies adopting technologies like you're offering? So
Sure. So I
you
think the
think
word,
what stage they are in, especially in a country like India?
yeah, I think India is, we still call emerging country. I think I don't know how long we'll be emerging country, but I could see the lines blending, and I really mean it when I'm in the field talking to customers, and what they're trying to do and disrupt at their with the disrupting in their industry or wanted to lead a pack. They all follow very similar patterns across the globe. Now I'll give you a couple of views as a company. We believe that we all know CRM. When the word called CRM that you hear in the market, in the software market, it is supposed to be Salesforce automation. That means you wanted to prospect, while prospecting, because marketing will run a campaign, will get you a lead, then you prospect, then the prospect will actually can become opportunity, and opportunity then eventually will close and become a customer. But we believe this trend will change, and changing very fast and rapidly from last year, and it continues to change in 2020 and beyond. So we were the first company to launch what is called a service first CRM. So we do have a CRM, but we call it as a very clearly service first CRM, because irrespective of, like Vimal talked about it, my co-panelists talked about, whatever you do, we all do for that one customer. Now, you made a very interesting point about customer acquisition. We spend money, either marketing, digital marketing, or traditional marketing to acquire a customer. But if the customer doesn't stay with you for a long enough period of time, we call that as a lifetime value of a customer. You will never reap benefits. You will keep burning cash to acquire a customer, but you will not become profitable because the customer is not just staying with you, but also side effects of not staying. That means disloyalty. Look at the other side. If the customer stays with you, and if they become loyal to you, that means they spend more money, and they become evangelist of your company. That means they will bring family and friends to do more business with you. We believe all this can only be done for tech companies like ours, a software CRM company. We should change our offering to businesses, and we did the first step of offering what we call a service first CRM solution. If some of you have not, some of you are sure used Zendesk in the past. If you're not used, you should definitely take a look at Service for CRM offering that we have since few months actually.
Yeah, thanks, Prasad. So out of this discussion, one thing is clearly coming out. Most of the companies now, at an intent level, they wanted to have a customer-centric attitude at the strategy level, and they try to adopt into the new technologies and tech stacks to deliver that wow experience because customer acquisition cost and brand building cost, purely in terms of building visibility for a brand, the cost is huge. On the other hand, servicing the existing customers and increasing their lifetime value, the cost to do that is relatively less, and the benefits are huge, both in terms of behavioral loyalty and also in terms of affective loyalty. What do I mean by behavioral loyalty? Is customers, after seeing our service, they directly repurchase our products more. They come back to our business and do more business with us, which in turn affects positively the revenue side. On the other hand, the loyalty at the attitude level is high. They spread the message. They talk about us to their friends, family members. They evangelize our business in their circle. So customer experience, as we all discussed, has become a priority, and even organizations have started seeing it at a strategic level. So with this, I end this panel discussion, and we can open up questions for the panelists. Participants can start sharing their questions so that we can take it up one by one.
Thank you so much, panelists, for those insights. I think we have a couple of questions over here. Can we unmute? Dharma, can you just help me figure out if anybody raising hand over there? So with that, I think we have reached to the end of this session. Can I have the final word from our panelists, please? Can we start with Bimal first? Like, what would be your key takeaways from this particular webinar?
Or you want to share something, a final word for the panelists? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I think good discussion, and I really enjoyed the session. If I have to sum it up, the discussion and some of the trend that we would be, looking out personally, it would be one conversation, connected teams, which Prasad just touched upon. So I think this too would become very, very relevant. And from the B2B space, what is important is the consultative approach. How well you understand customer business is at the core. So I think you need to put that in center and then drive the remaining aspects around it. So that's my personal, key takeaway.
Yeah. Thanks, Vimal. Mohit?
Thanks. So here, one question I have received, if Katie can respond to that. Are chatbots a new way to get the questions answered by the brands?
See, chatbots often gets confused with two things actually. So there are bots and there are chat, which is live chat. I would say chatbot I think the Pratik who's asked this question, look at the way of doing it. I think chatbots are here to stay, or bots are here to stay. I think Jayatri and Shivangi both explained actually you got to look at what is a mundane task in our business processes, your way you're offering to customers, and those mundane tasks, things like is your office open on so and so date? Where is your address? What's the phone number to reach? Do you guys have a branch in Parel? These are very mundane questions. You don't need humans to answer it. You have this information somewhere. I think bots will do a great job of answering mundane questions. But the smartest companies would just not only put a bot, but the smartest companies are the ones who actually know when to hand over from bot to human beings who can actually do a live chat. The most successful or the successful mantra of having a chatbot, combining AI with human at the back end, which is a live chat, so that when the customers don't get what they need from the bot, they have an ability to talk to human, still get what they want, driving a great experience. I think that's my view on the chatbots.
Great, thanks, Katie. So can I have Mohit's final word, please?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Krishna. Again, this was a very engaging and a very uh, cool session that I attended today. One of the things that came out standing for me was these trends. These trends, I and Prasad, correct me if I'm wrong. These trends they take shape and form every new shape and form every year. They might change. They might new trends might get added, but keeping the core value, keeping the customer at the center of everything is is the key takeaway out here, and making sure that whatever trends are, you are well prepared in advance for those trends to shape.
Absolutely, Mohit.
Thanks, Mohit. Shivangi, your final views?
So I have 2 points here. One is, what are we doing, or what as a nation are we heading towards? So I see a lot of organizations, like Prasad mentioned, have started hiring customer experience officers or customer experience heads who ensure that their core activities are to understand the trend of what the customer wants, or what needs to be designed for the customer, whether present or in future. So that's one good part of observation that I see. Secondly, just a key takeaway, or maybe piece of advice, that how would we then measure what a good service culture is? You know, so of course, the moment you see that your employees are engaged, there is a repurchase, or there is an increase in repurchase, increase in net promoter scores. I think it ensures that you successfully implemented a good service culture environment. And absolutely, I loved this session because the panelists, as well as the expertise that they have from different backgrounds, really help blend and conclude on how important it is for us to understand that an exemplary customer service is the only differentiator in terms of defining the success rate for the organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Shivangi. Mr. Rajesh Srinivasan, can I have your final views?
Thanks, Krishna. I thank all the panelists for adding more value to the overall conversation. I've really understood a lot of things. One key thing which I always thought is the gap between the intent and action has to reduce with the help of tech tools. Most of the organization, if you go to their website or the communication level, they want it to be customer centric. They really want, they have that good intent, but when it comes to the action part, there is always a gap. I think it's time to adopt into the new technologies, which customers are way better than adopting technologies than companies. Whenever any new technology comes up, we generally adopt quickly as a consumer, but when it comes to organization, I know it's very difficult.
Katie, to sum up, can we have your views? You already given us like a quite interesting presentation, 5CX trends you have mentioned. To sum up, if you can just help us with the key takeaways from this webinar.
First of all, I want to say thanks for this opportunity. I think it's a very engaging panel conversations, especially on the webinar like this. If we don't have, enriching conversations with experience, various industry titles, I think it's a very engaging conversation. But all the 150 odd participants and about 6 odd panelists, we're all here for one thing. That's for the customer out there. Like Mohit said, these customer trends will keep changing. And last year, when we did a trend, we heard omni-channel is the way forward. Today, if you look at it, the trend has changed, but it evolved. The trend has evolved and become a conversation. So we all need to prepare ourselves as a conversational businesses, to engage our customers. But one thing, either it's conversational business, or you put an AI, or you hire a CCO, which is a Chief Customer Officer, to reflect upon to your customers that you care for them. and you differentiate your competition. But if you want to live and thrive in this experience economy, we are all living in the experience economy. This is the economy which is started almost 10, 12 years ago by Uber and Ola. Ola recently, Uber late, and then Airbnb and Netflix. Then, if you want to live and thrive, the only way you can thrive and grow your business if you're customer focused. If you're focused for customer, you got to care about what trends are emerging, and the trends will keep changing. So you got to embrace those change and be the leader. And second, if you're not caring about a customer, you got to ask the question that how relevant you will be in the business, because there are a lot of business got irrelevant in the last 5 years that we know some of the brands are super popular 5 years ago have disrupted fully just because of somebody sheer focus on customer experience. I would say these trends will keep changing, but today's conversation, I would summarize, make sure that your customers want to have a conversation, give them the ability to have a conversation with you. Second, they want you to collaborate. They want you to continue to invest in AI. And more importantly, they want you to demonstrate you care for the customer. That's by having a C-level representative for them to represent your board, that is CCO or equivalent role. With that, I want to say thank you. Krishna, back to you.
Yeah, Mr. Srinivasan, you're saying something?
Yeah. I lost some time, 5 minutes.
Yeah, we lost you in between. So please go ahead.
No, I was sharing my own thinking of reducing the gap between the intent and action. Most of the times, I used to think I need to deliver a great customer experience, but on ground it's slightly difficult. So quickly we need to adopt into this new technologies and start delivering great customer experience. That is what I've realized during this whole conversation. I thank all the panelists, Vimal, Mohit, Shivangi, Jayatri, and Prasad, for adding more value based on your experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rajesh.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.